Hello and welcome to Theme Park Information. In today's show we have got a review for f.l.y, which is pretty much a pretty brand new roller coaster located at Phantasialand, which is pretty close to Cologne, Germany. And I will be honest, I experienced this coaster for the first time quite recently, and I will be honest, I mostly really enjoyed it, but there's some details on it which we need to get into, pretty much. So let's just start that this ride is absolutely gorgeously themed. It looks amazing. There's so much attention to detail, there's interaction, it's a long ride and it really utilises the whole land. It's got great elevation, it goes underground, it uses tunnels. It's a tiny bit like Nemesis in some way in that regard, where you just feel that you're going a lot faster than you potentially are. For those of you who also don't know, f.l.y is effectively a flying coaster, so you're kind of like facing the ground with the track above you. And effectively what makes it a little bit different is it's also a launch coaster, so effectively it actually launches you instead of going up with traditional lift hill or anything like that. And also, really weirdly, you actually board this coaster quite normally in some ways. You could argue, I think you actually board it seating, effectively in pretty much next to someone, and then the track rotates around and the train rotates as well, so you end up kind of going from being like the track going like alongside you, to being effectively above you, which is really interesting. Yeah, it's really really cool concept. And I actually will be honest, one of the favourite parts of the ride is actually that build up to turning over and utilising it. It's there's a little bit of little bit of story, a little bit of theming and stuff like that before it. And yeah, you just turn over, and yeah, the launch is pretty fun. It's a bit of an interesting one because there's no POV to really go back on this ride, so it is literally just all from memory. I mean, I managed to get a front row ride, back row ride, and somewhere in the middle on it as well, so I managed to get a pretty good feel for the coaster. And I will be honest, I really appreciated the front row on this, if I'm being really honest with you. Such a good little front row ride. So yeah, it has a couple of launches, 2 I believe inversions. Correct me if I'm wrong, there might be a third in there somewhere. It's quite a long ride. It has plenty of near miss elements. It interacts with lots of buildings and the walls and everything of the area. There's quite a few actual weightlessness airtime moments throughout it. I think there's like 5 in the front, 5 to 7 in the front. Not quite so many in the back because you tend to go through some of these elements a little bit slower and then get pulled through them, so you get that little bit more intensity. I say it's a very smooth, very enjoyable ride. I will say, as a negative, and it's probably a bit of a buzzkill in some ways, but the restraint system, it pretty much you wear almost like a vest, where you actually have like this shoulder harness which is quite tight. So it feels very secure, very safe. However, it does properly dig into your shoulders and your chest and stuff like that. And now don't get me wrong, I wasn't there with huge marks or blood pouring out, but it was definitely noticeable, where especially it's only on a short ride. Now I will be honest, I've been on Fio's Baco many a time and have ended up with proper marks over the old shoulders, where we've gone on it 20 times in a day and stuff like that, and you really feel that on that ride, really feel it. Whereas this is a sort of coaster where, worryingly, after the first ride you were properly feeling it, and it's just probably because you put so much force onto it, and so it's very much almost like a pressure point on it, and it's a real shame because it kind of makes the ride isn't as re-rideable as I'd like it to be. I mean, it's a really fun, enjoyable coaster, brilliantly themed. It does have a really irritating locker system where you do have to put all of your belongings in a locker, but in fairness, there are quite a few lockers. It's quite well organised, it's quite well done, and it doesn't really hurt your queuing time that much because it's just before you get on the ride. So it's not like you go into the queue with nothing in your pocket and then have a really long wait. No, literally it is a few minutes before you go on the ride, which I quite like. And in fairness, I didn't see anyone really having that many problems or issues with it at all. I will say, from a queue line point of view, it is a bit all over the place. You go properly all around everywhere, which is fantastic the first time, really good for photos. When it's really quiet, I kind of feel it needs to have a little cut through or a little shortcut, so you're not doing that pointless walk, especially on a really warm, hot day. you probably don't need it. It's time you could be spent on the coaster as opposed to walking around. But I will say, yeah, this ride is beautifully themed, super immersive, very fun, really happy I've done it. It was one of the rides I was really looking forward to, and I will say it did live up to it. It's not perfect. I don't think it's going anywhere near any sort of top 20 or anything like that. But as I say, it's a definite thumbs up on the coaster. Really cool concept, really innovative. Just generally a really cool ride to go on. Anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.